Clara lived in a small, worn-down house at the bottom of Mount Ridge, a tall mountain that overlooked her tiny village. Every day, she worked hard to help her family, fetching water, collecting firewood, and taking care of her younger brother and sister while her parents worked long hours in the fields. Life was tough, but Clara never gave up. She dreamed of becoming a doctor, though it felt like an impossible goal because they barely had enough money for food. One afternoon, dark clouds gathered in the sky, and a cold wind began to blow. A storm was coming. Knowing her family would need firewood to keep warm, Clara grabbed her basket and headed toward the forest near the mountain. The rain started falling as she reached the edge of the trees, soaking her clothes and making the ground slippery. As she bent down to pick up sticks, she heard something strange. A faint cry carried by the wind. At first, she thought it might be an animal, but then she realized it was a person calling for help. Following the sound, she climbed higher, clutching tree branches to steady herself against the storm. Finally, she saw him. A man lying near the edge of a steep cliff, his leg caught between rocks. He looked pale and weak, shivering from the cold. Clara knew she had to act quickly. If the storm got worse, he could fall or freeze to death. "Hey, are you okay?" she shouted over the wind. The man groaned, barely conscious. Without wasting time, Clara used all her strength to free his leg from the rocks. Then, with great effort, she helped him sit up and wrapped her scarf around his injured leg to stop the bleeding. "I need to get you down the mountain," she told him firmly, even though her own arms and legs trembled from exhaustion. Using ropes made of vines she found nearby, Clara carefully guided the man down the slippery slope, step by step. It took hours, but finally, they reached the safety of her village just as the storm began to calm. By the time they arrived, Clara was drenched and exhausted, but she didn't stop until the man was safely resting in her family's home. Little did she know, this stranger wasn't just any hiker. He was someone whose life she would change forever. The man, still weak and shivering, lay on a makeshift bed in Clara's home. Her mother quickly prepared a warm fire, while her father fetched blankets to shield him from the lingering chill. Clara stayed by his side, checking on him every few minutes to make sure he was breathing steadily. "Who are you?" her younger brother, Jake, whispered curiously as he peeked at the stranger. "Shoo!" Clara scolded gently. "He needs rest, not questions." Despite her calm demeanor, Clara couldn't help but feel nervous. She had never brought anyone home before, let alone someone injured and clearly not from their village. His clothes were expensive-looking, even though they were torn and muddy from the storm. He carried himself like someone important, though she didn't know what to make of it. After a while, the man stirred, opening his eyes slowly. He blinked against the dim light of the fire, confusion written across his face. Where am I?" he asked hoarsely. "You're safe," Clara said softly, kneeling beside him. "You were hurt near the cliff. I brought you here." The man stared at her for a moment, then nodded weakly. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't found me." Clara shrugged modestly. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," the man replied firmly, his voice gaining strength. "Not everyone would brave a storm like that, or risk their life to save a stranger." Clara smiled faintly but didn't respond. She wasn't used to praise, especially not from someone who seemed so different from her. Over the next few hours, the man regained some color in his face, though his leg was still badly bruised. Clara's father suggested sending for a doctor from the nearest town, but Clara shook her head. "It'll take too long," she said. "Besides, we can't afford it. Let me clean the wound again. I've seen how my aunt takes care of injuries." Using supplies her mother gathered, Clara carefully cleaned and bandaged the man's leg once more. Her hands moved with precision, surprising even herself. For years, she dreamed of being a doctor, practicing on anything she could find. Books, dolls, even injured animals. Now, those skills were finally useful. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind clear skies and fresh snow on the mountain peaks. The man sat up with difficulty, looking around the humble home with gratitude. "My name is Adrien," he said, meeting Clara's gaze. "And I owe you my life." "I'm Clara," she replied simply. "And honestly, you don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone should do." Adrien studied her quietly, marveling at her humility. Most people would have expected something in return, a reward, recognition, but Clara didn't seem to want anything. It made him curious about her world, her struggles, and why someone with so little would give so much. Before he could ask more, Clara handed him a bowl of steaming soup her mother had prepared. "Eat this," she said. "It'll help you get stronger." As Adrien ate, he noticed how hardworking and close-knit Clara's family was. They lived simply, yet there was warmth and kindness in everything they did. It reminded him of values he had almost forgotten in his fast-paced, wealthy life. Little did Clara know, Adrien wasn't just any traveler. He was Adrien Cole, one of the richest men in the country. And her act of courage was about to set off a chain reaction neither of them could have predicted. The next morning, Adrien insisted on leaving. Though his leg was still sore, he didn't want to impose on Clara's family any longer. Before he left, he tried once again to thank her properly. "Clara, I can't express how grateful I am," Adrien said earnestly. "If there's ever anything I can do for you or your family, please let me know." Clara smiled politely but shook her head. "It's okay, really. Just take care of yourself and be careful on the mountain next time." Adrien nodded, though he knew he couldn't leave things like this. He promised himself he'd find a way to repay her kindness. Somehow. After Adrien disappeared down the trail, Clara returned to her daily routine. Gathering firewood, helping her siblings with their chores, and assisting her parents in the fields kept her busy. But every now and then, she thought about the man she'd saved. Who was he? Why had he been hiking alone on such a dangerous mountain? Her mother noticed her quiet reflection one evening as they sat by the fire. "You've been thinking about that man, haven't you?" her mom asked gently. Clara hesitated, then nodded. "I guess I'm just wondering if he made it home safely." "He did," her mom replied with a knowing smile. "And don't think we don't appreciate what you did for him. You risked your life out there, Clara. Most people wouldn't have done that." "I wasn't thinking about myself," Clara admitted softly. "I just knew I had to help him." Her father chimed in, pride in his voice. "That's who you are, Clara. Always putting others first. But sometimes, I worry you give too much of yourself." Clara shrugged, brushing off his concern. "What else am I supposed to do? If someone needs help, I can't just stand by." Though her family admired her bravery, they also worried about her. Clara often put others ahead of herself, sacrificing her own dreams, like becoming a doctor, to support them. Money was always tight, and the cost of medical school felt like an impossible barrier. Meanwhile, Adrien couldn't stop thinking about Clara. Back in his luxurious penthouse in the city, surrounded by comforts and conveniences, he found himself missing the simplicity and warmth of her home. He decided to investigate further, asking locals to discreet themselves discreetly about the girl who had saved him. What he learned amazed him. Clara came from a poor family, worked tirelessly to help them survive, and dreamed of becoming a doctor despite having no resources to pursue her education. Her selflessness inspired him deeply. It reminded him of values he feared were fading in his own world. Adrien realized that Clara's act of courage deserved more than just gratitude. It deserved action. Little did Clara know, her life was about to change in ways she never imagined. All because of the kindness she showed to a stranger on the mountain. Adrien couldn't shake the image of Clara from his mind. Her courage, humility, and selflessness stood in stark contrast to the greed and selfishness he often encountered in his high-powered world. She had risked her life for him, a complete stranger, without expecting anything in return. It was a rare kind of humanity that left a deep impression on him. Determined to learn more about her, Adrien returned to the village a few days later, this time dressed casually so as not to draw attention. He approached some of the locals, asking discreetly about the girl who lived near the mountain. "She saved you, didn't she?" an elderly shopkeeper said with a knowing smile. "That's Clara. Always helping others, no matter what it costs her." The shopkeeper went on to tell Adrien about Clara's struggles, how her family barely scraped by, how she worked tirelessly to keep them afloat, and how she dreamed of becoming a doctor but couldn't afford schooling. Adrien listened intently, his admiration for Clara growing with every word. Here was someone who gave everything she had, even when she had so little herself. He realized that repaying her kindness wasn't just about gratitude. It was about giving her the opportunity to fulfill her dreams. The next morning, Adrien drove back to the village, this time bringing supplies, groceries, blankets, and firewood for Clara's family. When he arrived at their home, Clara was outside hanging laundry, her hands red from the cold. "Adrien?" she exclaimed, surprised to see him. "What are you doing here?" "I came to thank you again," Adrien replied warmly, "and to bring something for your family." Clara frowned slightly, glancing at the truck loaded with supplies. "You didn't have to do that. We're fine, we always manage." "I know you do," Adrien said gently, "but managing isn't the same as thriving. Please let me help. This is nothing compared to what you've done for me." Before Clara could protest further, her younger siblings ran out of the house, excitedly eyeing the boxes of food and warm blankets. Seeing their joy, Clara sighed softly and nodded. "Okay," she said finally. "Thank you." As they unpacked the supplies together, Adrien took the chance to ask about her dreams. "So, I heard you want to be a doctor," he said casually. Clara looked up, startled. "Who told you that?" "A few people in the village," Adrien admitted with a smile. "They spoke very highly of you. Why haven't you pursued it?" "It's expensive," Clara replied simply. "We can't afford it. Besides, my family needs me here." Adrien nodded thoughtfully. "What if I told you I could change that? Help you go to school, become a doctor, all while supporting your family so you don't have to worry?" Clara stared at him, stunned. "Why would you do that? You barely know me." "Because you remind me of what truly matters," Adrien said sincerely. "Kindness, sacrifice, and putting others first. Those are qualities worth investing in." Clara hesitated, unsure how to respond. Accepting such generosity felt overwhelming, but she knew it could change her life, and her family's lives, forever. "I'll think about it," she said softly. Adrien smiled. "Take your time. But know this, I believe in you, Clara. You deserve every chance to succeed." After Adrien's visit, Clara couldn't stop thinking about his offer. It felt surreal, like a dream she'd given up on years ago was suddenly within reach. But doubts lingered in her mind. Was it right to accept such a huge gift from someone she barely knew? What if she failed? What if people thought she didn't deserve it? Her family noticed her quiet contemplation over dinner that night. "Something's bothering you," her mother said gently. "What is it?" Clara hesitated before explaining Adrien's proposal. "He wants to pay for my education, to help me become a doctor. He says he'll also support us so we don't struggle while I'm gone." Her younger siblings' eyes widened with excitement. "That's amazing!" Jake exclaimed. "You have to say yes." Her parents exchanged a glance, their faces filled with pride and concern. "It's a wonderful opportunity," her father said carefully. "But are you sure you're comfortable accepting it? It's a lot to take on." "I know," Clara admitted. "But think about what it could mean for all of us. If I become a doctor, I can help people here in the village. And maybe we won't have to worry so much anymore." Her mother reached across the table, taking Clara's hand. "We trust you, sweetheart. Whatever you decide, we'll support you." With her family's encouragement, Clara made up her mind. The next day, she met Adrien at the edge of the village, where he had parked his car. "I've thought about it," she began nervously, "and I'd like to accept your offer. Thank you for believing in me when I wasn't sure anyone else would." Adrien's face lit up with a warm smile. "I told you. I believe in you because you've shown incredible strength and kindness. You've earned this chance, Clara." Over the following weeks, Adrien arranged everything. He paid for Clara's tuition at a prestigious university, set up a fund to support her family, and even helped her gather supplies for her new journey. For the first time in years, Clara allowed herself to feel hopeful about the future. As she packed her bags Emotions swirled inside her. Excitement, fear, gratitude. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to work harder than ever before. On the morning she left, her entire family gathered to see her off. Her siblings hugged her tightly, promising to write letters often. Her parents stood proudly beside her, tears glistening in their eyes. "You're going to change lives, Clara," her father said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just yours, but everyone's around you." Clara smiled through her own tears. "This isn't just for me. It's for all of us." With one last hug, she stepped into Adrien's car, waving goodbye as they drove toward the city and toward her dreams. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey. Life in the city was a whirlwind for Clara. The bustling streets, towering buildings, and fast-paced lifestyle were a sharp contrast to the quiet simplicity of her village. At first, she felt out of place, like a small fish in an overwhelmingly vast ocean. But with each passing day, she grew more determined to adapt and succeed. Adrien stayed involved in her journey, checking in regularly to see how she was adjusting. He introduced her to mentors, helped her navigate challenges, and encouraged her whenever she doubted herself. Though their worlds were vastly different, Clara found comfort in his support. "You're doing great," Adrien told her during one of their meetings. "Don't let the pressure get to you. You belong here just as much as anyone else." Clara smiled gratefully. "I wouldn't be here without you. Sometimes it's hard to believe this is real." "It's real," Adrien replied firmly, "and you're proving every day that you deserve it." As months turned into years, Clara thrived academically. Her professors praised her dedication, and her classmates admired her humility and resilience. She often thought about her family back home, drawing strength from their sacrifices and love. During breaks, Clara returned to her village, bringing supplies and sharing stories of her experiences. Her siblings looked up to her with awe, and her parents beamed with pride. "You're inspiring everyone around you," Adrien said during one visit. "Your community sees what's possible because of you." Clara shook her head modestly. "It's not just me. It's because of your help. I couldn't have done any of this alone." "That's where you're wrong," Adrien countered gently. "Yes, I provided resources, but you did the work. Your courage, determination, and heart are what brought you here." Their bond deepened over time, rooted in mutual respect and shared values. Adrien admired Clara's unwavering commitment to helping others, while Clara appreciated his genuine desire to make a difference. Together, they began discussing ways to give back to her village, building clinics, funding scholarships, and improving access to healthcare. Through it all, Clara never forgot where she came from. She carried her village's spirit with her, reminding herself daily why she had worked so hard to serve those who needed her most. By the time graduation approached, Clara had grown into a confident, compassionate young woman. She wasn't just fulfilling her dream. She was creating opportunities for others to follow in her footsteps. And Adrien, he had rediscovered something he'd lost long ago, a sense of purpose. Watching Clara transform not only her own life, but also the lives of those around her reminded him of the true meaning of wealth, the ability to uplift others. The day of Clara's graduation arrived, and the auditorium buzzed with excitement. Students dressed in caps and gowns filed onto the stage to receive their diplomas. But no one shone brighter than Clara. As she walked across the stage to accept her degree in medicine, the crowd erupted into applause. Her family sat in the front row, beaming with pride, and Adrien stood nearby, his eyes glistening with emotion. After the ceremony, Clara hugged her loved ones tightly, tears streaming down her face. "I couldn't have done this without all of you," she whispered, her voice trembling with gratitude. Adrien stepped forward, handing her a small box wrapped in simple paper. "This is for you," he said with a smile. Inside the box was a stethoscope engraved with her name, along with a note that read, "To saving lives and changing the world, one patient at a time." Clara looked up at him, overwhelmed. "Thank you for everything. I'll never forget what you've done for me." "You've already repaid me," Adrien replied sincerely. By staying true to yourself and using your gifts to help others, you've inspired me more than you know. With her diploma in hand, Clara returned to her village, ready to put her education to work. Adrien had helped her set up a small clinic, stocked with medical supplies and equipment donated by his foundation. Word spread quickly, and soon villagers from surrounding areas began arriving for checkups, treatments, and advice. Clara worked tirelessly, treating patients with compassion and care. She became a beacon of hope for her community, a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness could create ripples of change. One evening, as she watched the sunset over Mount Ridge, Adrien joined her outside the clinic. "You've come so far," he said softly. "What's next for you?" Clara smiled, her gaze steady and determined. "I want to train others, teach them how to provide basic care so we can reach more people. And maybe someday, build clinics in other villages too." Adrien nodded approvingly. "You're unstoppable, Clara. The world is lucky to have you." As they stood side by side, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink, Clara reflected on her journey. From rescuing a stranger on the mountain to becoming a doctor, every step had led her here, to a place where she could make a real difference. She realized something profound. Life wasn't about waiting for opportunities. It was about creating them, even when the odds seemed impossible. And now, thanks to an act of courage and a billionaire's gratitude, Clara was living proof that dreams really could come true. And that's the end of the mountain rescue. Glowing star. We hope this heartwarming story reminded you of the incredible power of courage, kindness, and second chances. Clara's journey shows us that even the smallest acts of bravery can lead to extraordinary outcomes, and that generosity truly does come back around. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What did you think of the story? Did it inspire you or make you reflect on your own experiences? Where are you watching from? Are you tuning in from the US, India, the UK, or somewhere else in the world? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear about your corner of the globe. If you enjoyed this tale of gratitude and transformation, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that celebrate humanity, connection, and the beauty of making a difference. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue sharing these heartfelt narratives. Lastly, drop a comment below and share. Sparkles, what was your favorite moment in the story? Sparkles, have you ever witnessed or been part of a situation where kindness changed everything? Thank you so much for joining us on this inspiring journey with Clara and Adrien. We're grateful for your time and enthusiasm, and we can't wait to bring you more stories that uplift, inspire, and connect us all. Red Heart, until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, and never underestimate the ripple effect of doing what's right.